Okay, so hello, my name is Valerie Worthington, and this is the latest in a line of conversations that I'm getting to have with my friends who train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Since I can't train with them, one of the things that I know about most of the people that I get to hang out with is that they're also really smart in other ways. And so today, before we started, I was basically an example of the Dunning-Kruger effect, where I get to talk with my good friend Chrissy Linzy, who knows more about technology than I ever will. And I was offering her technical advice. So let me be a cautionary tale to you, don't do that. But like I said, I get to talk with my good friend Chrissy Linzy today. So Chrissy, thanks so much for chatting with me. The first thing I wanted to ask you is a little bit about your jiu-jitsu background and experiences.
Sure. So thanks for having me. And your technical advice, for the record, was spot on. So that's good. So I started jiu-jitsu back in 2005. I don't train as much now, like at all, hardly really. But I am one of the owners of US Grappling, so I am still very much in the community. I just have that technical day job that takes a lot of my waking and sometimes sleeping hours too. So I don't have a lot of time to train anymore. And when this whole travel is canceled for work thing started, my first thought was, I'm going to be able to go to jiu-jitsu classes. And then, they all got canceled too. But I had this brief glimmer of a chance where I was going to get to go train again, which was going to be exciting for a minute.
I don't think, I'm guessing you weren't alone in that there were probably a lot of people who were saying, you know what, wow, the proportion of my life is going to change a little bit, so I'll be able to train a little bit more. And then that didn't happen for any of us. Say if you, say if you would, a little bit about US Grappling.
Sure. So US Grappling started in 2005 with Andrew Smith and Brian Lindsay, my husband. We started running tournaments as a way to, well, I guess we ran the first one in 2006 as East Coast Grappling Championships. We became US Grappling in 2007, which was actually a tournament circuit that started in the Philly area where you are, by a man named Joe Prioli, who unfortunately died several years ago now. But we took on the name from Joe's family, and we've been running US Grappling ever since. We run tournaments all up and down the East Coast, both points format, like where you can win by points, or submission only format, where there's truly no time limit, no time limit until 10 minutes, none at all, which is pretty cool. And we keep all sorts of stats on it because I'm a big nerd. So
I like it. And
fun stuff.
Good stuff. I know I'm biased, but I also know that the word on the street is that US Grappling is an extremely efficiently run tournament, and that the people are professional and know their stuff. So when all of this is over, everybody who trains should participate in the US Grappling. And I, in the past, have worked for US Grappling, and I can say that the boss lady knows her stuff. So.
As does everybody else that works for us, not just me. Like the referees, I don't want that job.
I don't think anybody wants to be a referee, but
it's a hard job, you guys. That is a hard job.
It is a really hard job, and it's also really fun to Monday morning quarterback about refereeing. But when you're in the moment, it's a super hard thing to do.
It really is.
So that is how you and I know each other. But since you and I know each other, I also know that you have tons of other expertise as well. And I was wondering if you could say a little bit about the day job you mentioned, your professional background and your expertise.
So I have been working in contact centers and voice-related technology for a lot of years, since more than 20. And it started out working as an agent in a call center where I was making some extra money while I was in school. And it turns out phones are really neat. And the way that phones have expanded to become this whole interaction event. So when you send a Twitter message or a Facebook message, that can go to a company that is actually incorporating that into a call center of agents. It used to be just phones, but now it's email, phones, web interactions. My company makes the software that makes all of that possible. So lots of impact for our customers and other companies that aren't our customers that are trying to take advantage of these things right now. So that's kind of my background and how it all ties in with why we're all sitting at home and what makes this a little bit interesting, at least in current days.
Yeah. So if there was such a thing, what was a typical day like for you before the pandemic and for your organization?
So the team that I run does technical support globally for one of our products. So our company has three major products. One is with physical hardware installed at customer sites. The product that my team supports is wholly in the cloud, which means you can connect from anywhere, like your house, which might be handy right now, or your mobile phone, things like that. So my team does the technical support for that and works with our development team, works with customers on getting things stood up, solving problems. So sometimes it means that there's a whole contact center that can't make outbound calls. So my team would help them resolve those issues. So a typical day is a lot of Zoom meetings while we're doing strategic planning for how we're going to scale up our business. A little bit of a humble, not so humble brag, I guess. We have the product that my team supports is one of the fastest growing SaaS platforms, which is software as a service. So think like a tool that you would just download. There's no physical thing that you touch, but you still have technical support people providing help for you. So we have a very fast growing SaaS platform that we're supporting that is true continuous delivery, meaning the platform changes, like on your phone, you get an update. Oh, we've fixed these bugs, download the new app, get version 7.4.3, right? We have the way that our platform is structured. We have several hundred microservices. So you can make changes in this little area or this little area and it doesn't affect the rest of the platform. So we have thousands of changes a month so that the platform is continually improving, which is really exciting for our customers and really cool because they always have the latest and greatest stuff. No need to pay for a big upgrade or buy more software. It's always the most recent. The downside for my team is trying to keep up with those thousands of changes. What changed? What's different? How do we make sure that we can support that and explain to customers what changed? Because that's a really rapid rate of change, right? If you put it in jiu-jitsu terms, you're defending the triangle. Meanwhile, you're getting armbarred and wrist locked as a nice side bonus. So it's a fun world.
And I imagine it's a world where you hear a lot of complaints, but maybe not a lot of appreciation. Is that fair to say?
Very, very true. When I first took over this team about a year and a half ago, after about the first 40 days, I was like, it is way too depressing here. I started sending a weekly good news email. Like seriously, every week I send a good news email to my whole team. I'm like, I know this week was hard. Last week we dealt with this issue, we dealt with that issue, but here's all the good stuff that happened. And we call out when customers send a positive survey, they had a good experience with somebody. And it could be like somebody on the team got engaged. We sent out, that's in the good news. It could be anything because we want to really foster that team engagement, especially since it's a global team and you don't get to hang out with them, you don't get to hang out with each other in person. So we have a lot of Zoom meetings where we see people crossing over and that's one of the things that's really helpful when you have a big team like this and you're sharing real-time information about how things are changing.
A globally dispersed team, things happening every minute, and you're managing this on the fly, and you're still smiling. So it must take a certain kind of mentality to be able to survive and thrive in that kind of environment.
It really does. And it really helps that I have a great leadership team that's helping support this global stuff. And I have a great team of engineers that are really interested in helping customers and understanding what their problems are and really trying to make their lives easier and better and taking an extra minute and saying, hey, let me show you how you can do this a little more efficiently next time, things like that. It's beyond just break fix. And it's a really exciting thing to get to work on because this sounds so crazy, but we really are changing the way that companies do business. And we get to be part of that, and we get to become that trusted advisor. When they have a problem, they know they can come to my team and get good information quickly and get the help that they need. So it's exhausting, sure. It's it's a tough role. It's a tough place to work in, you know, that environment where everything that's coming to you is just another problem. It's like working in an ER, but for computers, right? So it's very different, you know, when you're trying to prioritize and triage things and move from problem to problem very quickly. But it really is very rewarding, and it's a lot of fun.
And it also sounds like exactly what you needed was a global pandemic to
Yeah.
be layered on top of this, where now you have the challenges and the pace that are already in place, but now you have virtually all of the workforce working from home, probably using a lot of the products that you support,
Yes.
probably
Yes.
wanting support. So what are some of the things that have changed for you and your company and the field in the wake of the pandemic?
Okay, I'm going to talk about a couple of things because that's such a great question, and there are so many things to talk about. So first, for my company, that how it directly affected my team. So like I said, we have a global team. We have people all around the world, and in some places it's easier to work from home than others. The like your ISP infrastructure is better than in some places than others. So we had already, so one of the teams, one of the large areas for my team is in Manila. So last year in Manila, they had both an earthquake, a typhoon, and a volcano within about 4 weeks. So when that happened, I was like, okay, the universe is trying to tell us to make sure everybody has remote access or a plan for remote access. So we had already done that sort of DR planning. We've expanded our footprint. That's not the only place our team is. You know, we have people in Brazil and Ireland and the US, of course, in Tokyo, everywhere, right? Global. So we started doing that DR planning when we saw like, okay, the team in Manila is really at like this hotbed of possible natural disasters. We're like, we need to make sure we're ready for this. And then the leadership of my company, Genesis, they sent everybody to work from home in February. They were very, like, they saw this trend happening and they're like, you know what? We are protecting people early because our industry is so key to getting other companies working from home. So we had everybody home 2 weeks before customers started trying to send people home because they were being asked to by local governments or things like that. So we had already worked out all the issues, connectivity, getting people done. And I really can't say enough about our leadership being willing to make what's really kind of a hard decision. You know, there's a lot to work through there. And do you make it too early? And I think people were like, maybe it's too soon. But, you know, when hindsight proves you were right, you know, it's been really good. And so the team has been relatively healthy, able to keep working. And we're doing a lot of different things to like kind of keep people's morale up, you know, like when we have our daily stand-ups with the whole team, we do hat day or things like that, just to entertain people. Bring your pet to stand up, things like that. The next thing is we recognize that these problems were going to be our customers' problems too. So some of our platforms are easier to move people to a work at home solution. Some of them require additional licensing. So we had all sorts of different options for customers to help get customers home and get their agents home and working so that their businesses could continue to function as quickly as possible. So that's all great. We eliminated overage charges. If you're going to have extra minutes, you're going to need extra minutes because you're a healthcare company or whatever. They're like, you know, you're committed to this many minutes, and if you go over that, we're not going to make you pay the extra overage fees. So they have deals like that for some of the customers. But probably the coolest thing that we did is we took the platform that my team supports and we made it available to any of our customers that needed it with basic functionality available within 48 hours. So we automated the deployment of that, which means my team was then trying to help support customers who hadn't been trained on how to use this new platform. So it's a different type of case. So we had to make sure people were ready for that. And after we had done that for our existing customer base for a couple of weeks, we made that available to any company that needs it through the end of April. So any company that's having a problem getting their agents to be able to work from home or being able to interact with their customers, we can stand up a Genesis Cloud org for you really like in about 48 hours and give you basic inbound, outbound functionality, or give you a chatbot, like a Google chatbot, because we've partnered with Google as well. And so some other companies, and that's probably the most interesting thing to me in the industry, is watching how people in our industry have responded. And several companies are responding in very positive ways, in very helpful ways, right? Not in punitive ways, not, well, we're happy to help you, but there's an extra license fee if you want to be remote. Like, nobody's doing that, which is really good to see. People are making the right choices for their customers and, I mean, for the world, right? So it's pretty cool. And working for a company that's making good choices that are right for not the pocketbook of the company, but right for the world, it's a good thing to do. And thinking back on how my company has dealt with this, not only for our customers, but for our staff as well, I don't think we could ask for anything more.
So many questions come to mind. So the first thing that I thought while I was listening to you talk was, given my layperson's understanding of the types of platforms that you support, I couldn't think of one that wouldn't require your support. So hospitals, grocery
Yes.
stores,
Yes.
attorneys,
Yes.
I can't think of a type of business that wouldn't require the kind of support that you're offering.
Yes.
So for you to say that within 48 hours, you're putting together support for any organization that needs it, that's pretty amazing. What are the implications for your workload and the workload of your team?
We're watching that very closely, but it's been really cool. We're getting such good data. And this is going to sound like I'm excited that we had a pandemic. That's not the case. But lemons and lemonade, right? We're learning so much about ways we can improve how we deliver the initial product for our customers. And I kind of compare it to when you learned how to drive a car. If you think back to being like 15 and you're getting your learner's permit and you're sitting in driver's ed and there's no radio on and your hands are at the proper places and you want to be doing everything exactly right. You're paying attention to where your hand is, where the mirror is, you're checking your blind spots every 4 seconds, you're doing all the right things with no distractions. And if we bring customers onto a platform that has very minimal distractions, right? Minimal functionality that gets them up and comfortable with the platform, then we can add in the next bit of complexity, just like turning on the radio. And before you know it, you can be driving down the highway with one hand on the wheel and the other hand eating a burrito while you're singing a song along with the radio or whatever. It's a very different experience now because you have that base level, that foundation, right? That base comfort and that trust in your ability. And seeing how this is changing for customers, the customers that are coming on live actually are creating fewer cases for my team than customers that come on with multiple things turned on at once. So applying this to how we can expand in the future is really going to help us change our delivery model, and we're getting great data to be able to back that up. And it makes it easier to control what phase the customer's in and what they're going to need, which means it's easier to help them with their onboarding experience. If you think back to like 2005 when I started jiu-jitsu, nobody had like learning plans. Like the first day, like you would have an armbar one day and then you would have a triangle and then it would be a takedown. And then like, seriously, my second day of jiu-jitsu was a helicopter armbar. Was that a good second day course? Probably not so much, but I didn't hurt anybody. So that was good. So now we have people that have plans, right? Like if you think about what Andrew's doing with BJJ Path and how he's really changed all of his course curriculum. There's a curriculum. Like jiu-jitsu instructors didn't have a curriculum 15 years ago. We had some mats in the gym, in the local fitness center. That's where I started. And you rolled them out and people came together and taught a move or two, or and then we tried to politely kill each other. It was amazing. But now there's a whole system to this. You know, we've got people that are applying learning theory and methodology behind jiu-jitsu, and we're doing the same thing with how we're going to onboard our customers and tie all of that together. And it's been just a fantastic opportunity for us to gather rapid data. You know, scientists experiment on fruit flies because their life cycle is really short, right? Well, we have the same opportunity here, and we're taking advantage of that. We're watching everything, like, on what day does this type of issue come in, and can we group these together, and what are we learning from the first 5 days that we could have prevented by sharing this information 2 days before go live, 1 day before go live. You ask this question, you know, 40% of customers ask this question on day 14. Well, what if on day 10 we sent them this email that explains how this is going to work, and we know you're going to ask next week. And now we have all this data in this little microcosm where we can actually use it. And so it's a really exciting chance for us to learn so much and really improve so many things about how we deliver and bring even more of that trusted advisor role to our customers.
The first thing I want to say in response is that your analogy of learning to drive the car really responded with me, or really resonated with me, because in the days, I learned to drive in the days before the GPS. So it's amazing to me, I still do this. If I'm listening to music or something and I can't find where I'm going, you got to turn it down.
Exactly,
so
right?
You have to take away the distractions, right? So that makes a lot of sense. And it sounds like and your point is totally well taken, that you weren't sitting here going, wow, I hope there's a pandemic someday so that we can collect these data. But it sounds like your company and maybe the industry has responded in a way that, in your professional opinion, is ideal. And what I'm wondering is, what does an end user like me, who knows enough to be dangerous, what would you like that person, me, to know about what it is that you're doing to support my user experience?
That's a really good question. I think the thing that people forget is when you're calling a company for help right now, they're using a tool like mine, or a tool, you know, maybe it's mine, maybe it's somebody else's, but the person on the other end of that phone is living through the same things you are, but still trying to work. They're trying to take customer calls while their kids are at their knee, the dog wants to go out, they haven't really gotten up, they don't feel great about the last time they had a shower, because everything, like, they have to keep delivering this. So all these essential workers are working from home, but they are still very much essential workers. So the first thing I would say is, please just add like 2 extra doses of patience, because those people are trying to help you and dealing with all the same pressures that you're dealing with. And yes, they're lucky that their employment is such that they can work from home, but that doesn't mean they don't have all the same stresses. They're still worried about their parents, their brothers and sisters, their family members that do have to go outside. For my team, a lot of them have family members that work in healthcare. So we have a lot of really big concerns, and you don't know the person on the other end of the line. You just, you don't know how their day is going. Take an extra minute and just like maybe ask them, maybe say, hey, how are you doing with all this? It's great that you're able to work. Are you okay? How's your company treating you? Are you guys getting what you need? And things like that. Just take an extra minute with people right now, instead of, why didn't my thing come on time, or whatever it is that you're unhappy about. The person on the end of the phone is going to be trying to do their best and making the best of probably a less than ideal situation. So that's the first thing. Yeah. The second thing is really, like, you have such a powerful chance right now to be voting with your dollars and seeing how companies are treating their customers, and more importantly, how they're treating their employees. If you go on the internet, you can find all kinds of examples of customers or of companies doing things that are not in the best interest of their employees, and it's out of fear, right? That's my personal perception, is that it's out of fear that that company is trying to survive, you know, so they can't afford to not make their employees come to work or not afford to be open, because small businesses, medium businesses, even some very large businesses are struggling right now. And so stress levels are higher, and how people respond in times of stress is really kind of telling. And you can kind of excuse a one-time mistake, but putting your employees at risk or your customers at risk because you don't have the financial cushion that maybe you wish you had, or because you want to be the last man standing, you know, the last open store on the block or whatever it is kind of short-sighted. And there are other ways that you can get assistance, you know, like the small business loans are available now and things like that. And I think that's probably one of the things that's really, like, watching how companies and industries are reacting and how they're treating people is really telling, because that's a cultural thing, right? Like a company culture. And seeing how that's happening. And I mean, these are the things I'm looking for. I want to put my money, I want to invest in companies that are investing in their people and taking care of their people and making good decisions. And that's something that we can all do, even, you know, even if it's where you go get your takeout sandwich when this is all over, and where do you go back to? Who do you know that took care of their people, and who do you know that put their employees at risk?
And one thing that came to mind for me while you were talking was the way you described your role early on in our conversation, which is that you're party to kind of shaping workplace culture. And so if we want a positive workplace culture, if we want a humane workplace culture, then, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what it sounds like you're saying is that I, as the end user, have at least a little bit of a say in making that happen.
Certainly. Yeah, absolutely. You know, when I think about my team, like a lot of the things that we would have seen a month ago, like questions about this report looks a little strange to me, all of that sort of noise is kind of gone, right? It's become a much more, here are absolutely acute issues, and all the other noise just kind of falls away, and people are really responding well to that, you know. Instead of the things that maybe would have bothered you a month ago, maybe they don't bother you quite as much now, or maybe you take a second and you take in the bigger picture. Like, do I really need to speak to the manager? You know, do I really need that? Do I really need to go there right now? Am I having a bad day? Are they having a bad day? And you really do get to shape how that, because interactions like that with customers really do shape the culture of the workplace. And if you have customers that are continually acting kind of crummy, it brings everybody down. And it sounds very like I should be wearing like a garland of flowers around my head, but like, just be nice, y'all. Like, you know, it really just goes back to like everybody, if you're nicer to one another, it helps not only with workplace culture, because people aren't unhappy about having to come to work and deal with people yelling at them. And, you know, the people that are calling my team are calling because it's a stressful situation for them. Nobody calls my team to be like, hey, y'all, nice job, not having any issues, keep it up. Nobody calls to say that. That's, you know, nobody calls the doctor to be like, I feel awesome, thanks, see ya. That's not how it works, right? So when you're thinking about that and thinking about the person on the other end of that email or that phone call, think about what their life might be like right now too.
Because they're people too. What have I not asked you about this area, about basically being someone who is providing the technological backbone for the rest of society to continue to function? What have I not asked you that you think it's important for people to know, or that you would like to share?
Oh, that's really, you know, I think that's, you have good questions. And like thinking about what we haven't talked about yet. I think, one of the things that I'll add to my interview list is, how did your company respond to COVID-19? Like when you're looking for a job, because people are going to be looking for jobs very soon, right? The economy is changing, the industries are changing, what's essential and non-essential is changing. And when you're looking for jobs, knowing how people responded, how did your company respond? How did your team respond? That's going to tell you a lot about whether or not that's a place you want to be. And I think people, it's one thing when you don't have a job and you need to get a job, but considering really how you can interact with those people and how you're contributing not only to get the job done, but to improve that workplace culture is really a big deal. And we have this opportunity. And I think people forget that a lot. And I think they think, oh, here's my job and I do these 6 things and then I go home. But there are a lot of ways to get things done, and you can get them done, as a grumpy face or as somebody that's trying to make the world a little bit better.
Thank you. I have 2 more questions for you. They're
Yes.
very important. The first one is, what hat did you wear to the last hat day?
Oh, I'll get it. I'll get it. This is my fedora from when I used to work for Red Hat. So this is my Red Hat fedora that lives in my office.
You are a hat person. I like it.
I am. I have a lot of hats.
Do you? That's fantastic. Yeah. So every hat day, you're never caught unawares when it comes to hat day.
No, we're gonna have a virtual Hawaii hangout tomorrow night, and I have a beach hat that I'll wear for that.
Fantastic. And then the last thing that I wanted to ask you, Chrissy Linzy, and also to mention that your friends and loved ones all call you by your first and last name, or at least for the entire time that I've known you,
yeah,
I called you Chrissy Linzy.
It's true. I'm not sure how it happened, but thanks to my husband for letting me take his pretty cool last name. So yeah, I am Chrissy Linzy to a lot of people. And it happens naturally. Like when I took on my new job, I became Chrissy Linzy there, and none of them knew any of my old, it just happens. I have that name.
It just happened. So Chrissy Linzy, what are some of the first things you're going to do when the quarantine is lifted?
I am really lucky. I am happily quarantined with just my husband and my cat. And Brian is awesome and brings me a latte every morning. And so this is this is a great quarantine for me because I have my office and I have space and I have snacks and things like that. But I'm really looking forward to going to a restaurant. I want to go, and I just want to go with Brian. I want to go to dinner with Brian, but I want somebody else to bring us some food and sit in a restaurant. And it doesn't have to be fancy. It can be like our little local pizza joint or something. It doesn't have to be fancy. I just want to go to a restaurant. That's the thing I probably miss the most. And have a beer from tap. That would be nice.
And it kind of comes full circle, right? It's not an extravagant desire. Yes. And it's also not beyond the pale to just want to be surrounded by, professionally and personally, people who are kind and who are thinking of other people.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a good tipper. Like if we can go to a restaurant, I'll leave them a big tip too, because it's going to be tight right now for people that work in that industry, right? I just want to hang out and have a beer outside.
Once you've done it with Brian once, then I'll come and have one with the 2 of you.
Perfect. That would be amazing. We would love that.
Chrissy Linzy, thank you so much for talking with me. I think this was super informative, and you are one of the people who keeps the world going round that not everybody gets a chance to see or to thank. So thank you very much.
Well, thanks. That's very kind. I think everybody on my team is just trying to do their part to keep things running smooth.